Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money. With your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here, and we are at Screw the Commute. Boy, I got a great guest today, just a prolific business person, and I just love her to death. I'll tell you about her in a moment. Just a moment for our sponsor, and I am on my knees. I am begging. The dogs think I'm trying to play with them. I am begging you, do not buy higher education for yourself or nephews, nieces, kids that you have until you listen to the webinar I have about it on screwthecommute.com. Your eyes will just bug out at the money wasted on higher education that we can help you get out of. So go over to screwthecommute.com and you can check that out later. But right now, the main event is here. Since 2004, Christine Kloser, wait a minute, since 2004? That can't be right. She only looks like she's 12 years old. That can't be possible. But anyway, I'll read it as it says. She's the Transformational Author Coach, and she's trained more than 70,000 coaches, entrepreneurs, and leaders to write their transformational books through her popular programs, Get Your Book Done, the Transformational Author Experience, Breakthrough Live, and the My Time to Write mentorship program. Christine, I got one big question for you. Are you ready to screw the commute, that is? Wait a minute. I don't want to get smacked by anybody on your end.
Well, I haven't commuted to a job in 27 years, Tom. So I screwed that world a long time ago.
27 years? That can't be. You got to be faking your age so you can get in nightclubs or something. It's impossible that you've been working 27 years.
Well, that's very kind of you, but I am definitely older than I look.
Well, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, I have the amazing blessing of working with people who are either entrepreneurs, coaches, leaders, messengers, people with something to say in the world who want to build a business of some degree, whether it be a 5-figure business or a 7-figure business around their work. I get to help those people write their transformational books in a way that does help them transform, themselves, impact their readers' lives, completely overhaul and up-level their business, and of course, help them make a bigger impact out in the world. So that's what I get to spend my days doing. And I love it because I swear I feel like sometimes I can't believe my clients pay me because working with them brings me so much flippin' joy.
Well, I got to tell the folks out there, people love her. I got to tell, they just love her. I mean, and I'm kind of a clearinghouse with my consumer advocacy thing of people that don't come through. Christine comes through and people just love her. Now, did you ever have a job at all?
I did have a job. I have actually moved across the country quite a few times, and I moved because originally when I was in college, I went to one too many of those on-campus interviews, and I was like in my, my double-breasted skirt suit and pantyhose and patent leather heels. And I tell you, I came home one day, back to my dorm, and I said to my friends, I'm like, I can't do this. I just can't do this. There's something about this is so wrong. So that night, over a pitcher of beer, I remember it was Miller Lite. It was Club Eagles in Providence, Rhode Island, where I went to a small, private, conservative Catholic college. And that very night, I got one of my girlfriends to agree to hop in a car after we graduated and move 3,000 miles away to San Diego.
Oh, my God.
And we got someone else to join us, and we did that. We hopped in the car, we drove cross country, and when I landed in San Diego, I got a temp job. So I did have a temp job, and I happened to get a job at KGB Radio, which is one of the top rock and roll radio stations in San Diego. And it was amazing. But after a year of, just continuing college living in Pacific Beach, San Diego, I thought it was time to get real. So I moved back to Connecticut, where I was raised, and I got a job in a radio station, WTIC Radio in Hartford, Connecticut. Again, one of the top radio stations. in that city. And I went in for an interview to be an administrative assistant, and I walked out with a job as a sales executive. And I worked in radio for 2 years as a sales executive for two different radio stations. And that was the last job I had, and that was 1991.
Wow. Now, do you remember the moment when you decided, you know what, this is just not for me? I'm going to go out on my own.
Well, it wasn't a moment, to be honest, Tom. It
Mm-hmm.
was an evolution.
Okay.
Now, the thing that got me out of that job in 1991 was the guy I had met and was dating on the East Coast was moving back home to Bel Air, California. And I thought I was in love, so I decided I would follow him. So I quit my job in 1991 as a sales executive, one of the top radio stations in all of Connecticut for sure. And I followed who I thought was my love across the country. A number of different things happened once I got to Los Angeles that led to me literally falling into entrepreneurship. And thank God, because I haven't looked back since.
Well, did you literally drive behind him across country? Or what?
Well, no, he flew out and then I drove. I actually got my sister to hop in the car and drive with me so that I didn't make the cross country trip alone. But I had I was at a Nissan Maxima. I had my U-Haul thing, not tugging behind me, but just on top of my car.
Oh,
And yeah, we made the 3,000-mile jaunt cross country that ended up leading to my entrepreneurial career, but not without some twists and turns along the way.
I'll bet. So give people, let's say, several tips on what they could do to do what you do or to take advantage of what you do.
Well, I think one of the most important tips that I want to give all of you is that if you are going to, make the leap, whether it be a conscious leap in a moment of decision or like me, I made one decision that led to a number of other decisions that brought me into the entrepreneurial world. Whatever it is, however it is that you end up on that journey, make sure that you are doing something that you love. Because the journey of entrepreneurship, while it has tremendous rewards and tremendous joys and amazing successes, things that I don't think could really happen in the corporate world, if you will. In the entrepreneurial world, it's different, but man, it can be harder than anything you've ever done in your life, honest to goodness. And if you're not doing something that you love, that you really feel passionate about, I think it's too easy to quit when the going gets tough. And it's the people who quit in those tough times that never get to experience the joy of, the level of success and impact they wanted to have when they set out on that path. And the ones who stick through those hard times and let their passion and their care and their drive for what they're doing navigate them through whatever the heck that dark time is. And Lord knows I have had several of them in my business. But through each of those tough times, if you stay with it, you get stronger, you get wiser, you become much more savvy, you're able to get more aligned and more on target with what you're doing. So if you just, and this is, strictly my perspective, but if you go after a business only for the money, it might be a harder road than it needs to be, because you can make all the money in the world, but if you're not happy and not fulfilled and not joyful in what it is that you're doing, the money kind of really doesn't have a whole lot of meaning. It makes, it makes life easier, but that part of you that wants to feel fulfilled and purposeful and like you really are, making a difference in some way, that part can never be fulfilled by money. So you got to love what you do, I think, in order to survive the tough times. So that's like tip number one, love what you do. Tip number two, don't quit. As long as you are passionate about what you're doing, just don't quit, because the only people who fail are the people who stop. I recently got to interview Scott Hamilton, like 4-time world figure skating gold medalist, 4-time national gold figure skating medalist, and 1-time, Olympic gold medal champion. And I love what he said. You might want to write this one down. He says, failure means nothing. Failure is simply information.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't agree more. So, those are some of the tips. And if there's a third one that I want to throw in there, it's make sure that along the journey of entrepreneurship, you're taking care of yourself. You will work hard. It will require a lot of you to create what it is that you want to create. And if you're sacrificing your own health and well-being, your relationships, exercise, healthy eating, and those things in the meantime, I think it significantly decreases the amount of energy and vibrancy you have towards building what it is you want to build as an entrepreneur. So don't sacrifice yourself in the process because you want to be at the top of your game when you're experiencing all that amazing success.
All great tips. Although there's one thing I'm really surprised at. You said you had some dark times. I mean, I thought everything was perfect the whole way. I mean, did you
You're
ever
joking, right, Tom?
yeah, I mean, I've only been doing this 40 years. Yeah, it's all been perfect, everybody out there. Don't think there's ever a downtime. And you never get screwed, right?
Oh man, I wish. I wish.
In business,
I
that
wish.
is. In business, I
Yeah,
better make sure I'm clear about that.
yeah. I've been screwed over a few times. I've invested in people who said they could help me and then they didn't and really didn't. I mean, they took my money,
Right.
tens of thousands of
Hmm.
dollars, and then really didn't give a crap about me once they got the sale. And I mean, I lost my house as a result of it. I
Oh my
went through
God.
bankruptcy. I mean, it was hairy, but I wanted to succeed and I believed that the people that I, hired to help me succeed, could do that. I think, Tom, that's part of why, you mentioned earlier in the intro how people just love me. And I don't say that with any sort of conceit or anything, but I have been so screwed in business that I am so committed to making sure that nobody else has to go through what I went through
Hmm.
in my business. I don't want anyone being told that, well, if you're not willing to put everything on the line, you're not serious. I believed that crap when someone told me it. And I did put everything on my line and I lost my family's home
Oh boy. Yeah.
because I believed in them. So this is why I am hyper vigilant, not just to deliver what we promise, but to over deliver, to blow people away because I mean, like I said, I've just been screwed in business too many times
And
that I
she
really
does, folks. I mean, really, the feedback on her is just unbelievable. Another thing we'll put in the show notes, besides all Christine stuff, is Tom Ante on webinars.com. The first webinar is all about the sociopathic mind in the coaching and consulting business. And it gives you all the things to watch for up front before you invest a bunch of money with somebody that's going to just steal it. These people are chameleons. They'll say and do anything until they get your money, and then you can just drop dead and sue them, and then their lawyers are going to eat you up. So she's not one of those.
No, I mean, I've been in business on my own for 27 years. We've never ever had anyone, deal with any kind of legalities because we just, we always do things the right way. If something ever slips through the cracks, like we'll fix it immediately. We'll send the refund, we'll over deliver, we'll give them twice as much as we promised them with a profound apology over whatever the oversight might have been that had them feel like they didn't get something that they were supposed to get. Our refund rate is like nothing.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean,
I forget how to do it a lot of times because
yeah, yeah, yeah. I have to go to my team like, do you guys remember how to do this? Like, we're going to figure it out because it hardly ever
But that's the
happens.
thing. You take care of people and you don't run into these chargebacks to credit cards and lawsuits and bad
Oh, yeah,
reviews
never.
all over the place. Now, the sign of a good business is what you do about it when you do screw up, because you can't be in business 27 years or 40 plus years like me and not screw up with people around you. You're going to screw up. It's what you do about it that matters. And she does a great job. So what do you like?
Absolutely. I just wish that I didn't get to this place, Tom, by being screwed so many times in my
Well,
own business.
but
But I'm here now.
it all makes your own character. I mean, maybe you
Oh
wouldn't
yeah,
be so vehement about taking care of people if it hadn't happened to you. So, uh,
betcha.
yeah,
Yep.
and I was in the situation when I had the nightclub. The drinking age went from 18 to 21 in a small place and wiped me out. And in my case, I don't have a family to deal with, so I refused to go bankrupt. I went to all the creditors and I said, look, I'm going to pay you off. You just give me time. And I paid off everybody over time. I refused
Ugh,
to do it. Now, I'm
yeah.
not saying bankruptcy is not a good method for when things happen, but it's all in what you do about what happens to you that
Yeah.
shows your character, and
Yeah.
you have a great one. So what do you like best
That
about working for
I'll
yourself?
just
Oh, go
I'll
ahead.
just say that experience was by far that decision was by far the most challenging decision I've ever
That had
made
to tear
in
up
my
a
life.
person like you because I
Oh
know
my God.
you, and you are a caring person, and
Yes.
yeah,
It tore me it did,
yeah.
it tore me apart, but yeah, it was one of those,
Well,
hell times
things
for
like
me.
this happen.
Yeah,
I mean, like I said, I was doing great, and then boom, while one legislative piece of ink wiped me out
yeah,
after
yeah,
6 years risking my life, bikers trying to kill me, and I made this nice place, and then boom, it's gone overnight. So,
yeah.
sometimes
So
you
I think you yeah, go ahead, sorry.
well, these things happen, and but one of the keys is be prepared. Somebody on another interview said something about spend like it's the bad times all the time. So just because you're doing well, don't go out and buy airplanes and yachts and and then
Right.
get yourself in too deep, right?
Right.
So what's the best thing you like about working for yourself and the worst thing? I've heard a few little birds in the background, and this is beautiful. We actually had somebody else that had birds in the background. Where are you working from right now?
I am working from my beautiful home office in gorgeous York, Pennsylvania. A lot of people call
Mhm.
this part of the country here God's country
Mhm.
because it's just amazing. I mean, I'm looking out my window, and yes, there's birds, there's cardinals, there's woodpeckers, there's the little chickadees, and the flora around me. I mean, there must be 8 different colored flowers that I'm looking at just right out my view at the moment.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And it's such a blessing to be able to work from home and adjust my business to my family, right? I have a 13-year-old daughter who's into, dance competitions and theater at school. And I have a husband who does a lot. He's a substitute teacher, he's an actor, he's a baseball coach. And it takes a lot to kind of manage, a life. Even though it's just the three of us, every single one of us has a lot going on.
Mhm.
And I don't have to answer to anyone. I don't have to be anywhere at a certain day or time. I get to make my own schedule and I, get to take as much time off as I want for vacations. And, it's just, I honestly do not know that I could manage my life, my family in a way that makes me a happy person, like someone who really loves my life, if I had a job.
What would you
Um,
say to somebody that's in that cubicle and say, "Man, I want to break out." What would you tell them?
what would I tell that person who wants to break out? Well, first of all, I would say that anyone who has that drive and desire, because there's a lot of people out there who are in that cubicle and they've kind of just rolled over and been like, well, I'll get out when I retire. And if you're sitting in that cubicle thinking, I want to break out of this, like you're one of the ones who has it in you to do so. So I would strongly encourage you, first and foremost, to really get a sense of like, what does bring you joy? What do you love doing? If you could wake up in the morning and you could create your workday to be anything that it was? Maybe you're out actually taking care of my lawn, right? Maybe you love grass and plants and flowers and you want to go be a landscape architect, then research what that takes. Maybe you're a woman who was a dancer growing up, like I was. I was a dancer and a competitive figure skater growing up. And, like my daughter's dance studio, it was just a mom who was sick of what she was doing and wanted to do something different. So she opened up this little dance studio, which has grown to be one of the most successful studios in our area in just a couple of short years. But she had that drive, that desire, that passion. So find what it is that you're passionate about. Do your due diligence, do your research, put together a business plan of what you would want to do. See if you can go to the SBA and maybe get yourself a small business loan to get started. Bootstrapping is how I did it, and it's tough.
Well,
Bootstrapping,
we also have crowdfunding now that we
oh
didn't
yeah,
really have back then. So that's another way to
absolutely.
get started.
Absolutely. Yeah, I forget about crowdfunding, but absolutely. So if you want to do it, if you have that desire deep in your heart, like you can. That's the most important thing to have because in today's world, I think more than ever with the power of the internet and the resources that are available, if you want to, it's not like there's any barrier to entry anymore,
That's for sure. Hey,
you know?
anything crazy, funny happened to you in your 27 years?
Well, yes, you heard me talk about how over a pitcher of beer I decided to move to San
Yeah, I
Diego.
thought that's a great way to start a business, really.
Right. Well, and then you heard me say that I think you heard me say that I moved back to Connecticut, ended up
Mhm.
getting serious with my life. Well, the third, I moved cross country four times, right? I've moved four times.
Okay.
There might be a fifth in the future, who knows?
Mhm.
But I'm back on the East Coast now. But the third trip cross country was that one when I fell in love and I was, quitting my job and
Mhm.
I
Yep.
was, driving cross country with my sister to go be with this guy in Los Angeles. I think it was somewhere around Arizona where it dawned on me that I actually didn't really love the guy.
Oh my god.
So I finished the drive. I remember knocking on his door, me and my sister, and I saw him. I'm like, oh my God, this is so over. So I think it might have been 60 days from the time I arrived that we were broken up. And that was crazy. But here's the crazier thing. I was a nanny. Like when I first moved to LA, I was a nanny for
Oh.
this 4-year-old kid, and his dad was like in his 70s. The mother unfortunately died in childbirth, which was devastating. But I was a nanny, and I had managed to make one other friend as a nanny. This beautiful woman from Brazil, and she and I became fast friends as we would meet in the park to be nannies together with the kids that we lived like two doors apart. Because of her, Assyria, I can picture her in the first moment I met her. Because of her, I decided to stay in LA. Even though, this guy, I didn't love him and it all ended, I decided to stay in
Or
LA.
maybe you just didn't have gas money for your 8th trip across country.
I could have gotten back home, but there was something inside me said, stay. And it was later that year in 1991 when I started my very first business totally by mistake. I was a personal fitness trainer working at a gym in West LA. Still remember it's called LA Woman. And I was a fitness trainer, at this little gym. And one of my colleagues had said, "Hey, I'm going to be out of town for a couple of months, and I have this one client that I work with. She's right around the corner, which was right near where I lived in LA. She's right around the corner, and she'd like me to find a replacement to come and do her workouts with her 3 times a week while I'm traveling." She said, "Would you be interested?" I said, "Sure." This was because of this following this guy cross country that I didn't really love after all, but it led to me knocking on that woman's door, who to this day, 27 years later, is still one of my dearest friends. I call her my
Oh,
West Coast mom.
that is
And,
beautiful.
yeah, just saw her my last trip to LA. We had a sleepover at her house. It was awesome.
See, I
But
knew
any,
you were only 12 years old, having a sleepover. Hey, what are you promoting nowadays? What's up? You always got something great coming out. What's up?
Well, the biggest thing that I'm working on right now is my 7th season of an online event that I run called the Transformational Author Experience. It is a training in which I help people, and it's completely free. Like the training is free, and people get to go and learn how to write, how to publish, and how to promote a transformational book
Mm.
that helps them, impact lives, grow a book-based business, learn how to do events around their book, and I only do it once a year, and then it's sort of, evergreened after that. But that's the thing I'm working on. And I got to tell you, Tom, it's the most amazing lineup. I don't know. Like that's what I interviewed Scott Hamilton, the Olympic gold medal
Mhm.
figure skater, for. I've got the producer of Pretty Woman, Gary Goldstein. He's in that series. And, a lot of people don't know, but he was a literary manager for 12 years. And he launched his book using crowdfunding on Kickstarter. And then it just goes on. New York Times bestselling authors from like the Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, Christine Carlson from that series, and Sark, and publishers, Eckhart Tolle's publisher, and Neil Donald Walsh's literary agent, and they spill the beans. I'm a great interviewer, and I get them to talk about the stuff they don't usually talk about, to help people who want to write a book that's going to help them build a business and build a movement and increase their impact and their income in the world. So
Okay,
that's the big.
we're gonna have a link to this in the show notes, everybody, and make sure you check this out because, like I said, it's free. And did you hear the lineup she has there? That's what I'm saying. People are attracted to her like a magnet because of the quality of things that she produces, just for free. So make sure you check the show notes for this episode, and we'll have a link to that. Now we're going to take a short message from our sponsor, and when we come back, Christine's going to tell us what a typical day is like for her and how she stays motivated. We'll be right back.
Today, almost 2 billion of you will go online, retrieving over 100 billion searches for information, goods, and services, and 6 million of you will view a page on the internet before this commercial is over. The world has changed, and so has the way we do business. At the Internet Marketing Training Center, you can study online at your pace to fit your schedule, and you can graduate with the skills and knowledge to compete in the global marketplace or start your own home-based business. Call us today or go online at imtcva.org because it's about time. Yours.
All right, we're back with super duper Christine Kloser. And Christine, what's a typical day look like for you?
Typical day is alarm clock going off at 5:30 a.m.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
No, that's not the best thing to tell my audience. I mean, 5:30. Oh my God. What time do you go to bed?
Usually I'm in bed by 10.
Wow. 5:30.
Yeah.
No, 5:30
Yeah, because
is a dangerous time of day.
well, I don't recommend it for everyone, but the morning time is like my sacred time.
Okay.
I'm down on my sofa by 5:45 meditating, and I do a 90-minute meditation journaling. I got hooked on Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning, so I do that. And it's about a 90-minute routine. And then 7:15, I drop my daughter off at the school bus. I'm back by 7:30 making my protein shake with, fresh vegetables and fruits and all, organic, healthy stuff. And then usually by 8:30, I'm in front of my computer. I don't usually book any calls until 10 o'clock in the morning. I like that first 90 minutes of my, sitting in front of my computer time to be my most highly productive time. So that's when I do my biggest priority, like the big rocks that'll make a big difference in the business. That's when I do those. And then starting, 10 o'clock is usually when I'll be working with private clients or planning for my next retreat. Right now, we're figuring out our details for a writing retreat we're hosting at Bob Marley's place in the Bahamas next year. So, I take care of all that stuff in the morning, and then I'm usually done. My daughter either gets picked up from school around 3:30, or I'm like by 4 o'clock, I'm in mom mode. I'm thinking about dinner. I'm running carpool. I'm taking care of stuff around the house. Right now, I'm tending to, the garden and making sure it's watered and all that kind of stuff. And that's it. I enjoy, like I said, I love cooking. I like a great, relaxing evening at home on my deck. And I'm usually in bed by 10 o'clock
My
after a long
goodness.
soak in a
I'm
bathtub.
still stuck on 5:30. See, when I had the nightclub, I would go to bed at 5:30 and then get up at the crack of 1 or 2. You know?
I have never been a morning person, but I tell you, I read that book, The Miracle Morning, and
Yeah.
it did. It had a huge impact on me, and I started waking up early, and I'm so much more productive.
Mhm.
I feel so much healthier. I'm getting so much more done. My business is moving forward further faster because of the value of that morning time.
I think there's science behind that somehow with biorhythms and that kind of stuff, but I
Yeah,
don't
there
really know
is.
know
There
know about it.
is.
Well,
I
so
know.
how do you stay motivated? And tell me about that 90-minute meditation. I'm like, I try to relax for 10 seconds and my mind won't quit. How does that work?
Well, I don't meditate for 90 minutes. That's
Okay.
total. That's the meditation time, my reading time, my journaling time, my exercise time. I like to hula hoop and rebound, and I got my dumbbells and my bands, and so it's 90 minutes total for my routine. But I've taken care of myself before I sit down in front of my computer to work because I want to be my best so that I can be at my best for my clients and help them be their best. And I think the
Something's
thing really.
happening. I hear something on your microphone.
Oh, okay.
No
Are
problem.
we better now?
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, there was some
Sorry.
kind of rumble there. It
Yeah,
was
I was closing
probably
the
one of the
window.
mountain lions stopping by to say hello or something in your.
No, it's close. I was leaning and looking out the window, watching the birds, and there
Oh.
must have been a breeze blowing in the window. Sorry about that. I've leaned back from my window right now. What were we just talking
So how do you
about?
stay motivated?
You know what? The reward of the work that I do is so, oh my gosh, I don't even know that there's a word that describes, how it feels to me when I get an email from a client or a text or a call from a
Mhm.
client saying, "Oh my gosh, my book just arrived," and they're in tears, and it's like they are a new person
They're
We've had people,
transformed, right?
they're,
There we
they
go.
are transformed. They believe in themselves. They're rocking their businesses. They finally were able to say what they never knew that they could really say. And now they're doing it and they're stronger for it. So, yeah, I mean, their books are getting written and their businesses are growing and all of that great stuff. But when I, see a client's personal transformation in terms of who they've become and who they are now in the world and the positive force they are in the world, I just got to think of one of them. And there's so many, but I could just think of one. And that's
That
the
fires you up,
motivation
huh?
to do what I do.
All
The
right.
reward of the work is the motivation.
You're,
Those clients
I,
are like, I love them.
I,
Love them.
s- I so know that feeling. So, any parting thoughts for all the screwballs that listen to this Screw the Commute show?
Well, welcome to the Screw the Commute world. Don't be surprised if people who are scared to screw the commute try to waylay you and sidetrack you. Every time that someone like you stands up and says, screw this commute, either screw it right now or I'm going to screw it in the next year, whatever it is, when you stand up to do that and you say that and you start claiming it, you trigger every single person around you who is the person sitting in the cubicle that feels like they're stuck and trapped and they can never get out. And they, out of love and care and support, could try to tell you how it's not going to work, why it's crazy. Don't you know how hard that is? Who do you think you are? You don't have any business experience, whatever. And you just got to know that that's about them and that is not about you. So anyone who comes out and, tries to approach you and they're a naysayer, just let it bounce right off of you because it really honestly has nothing to do with you. You've just triggered something in them that makes them uncomfortable. Let them be uncomfortable and you go screw the commute and do what you want to do and sort of join, this party over here that is a party of people who love what they do, who make good money, who get to live great lives and make a great difference in the world. So don't let anyone stop you.
Well said. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So, how do people reach you if they want to get in contact, connect with you, see your products and services?
Best thing would be just to go to my website, which is Christine Kloser. That's Christine, Christine, Kloser, KLOS like Sam, ER. So
And we'll
ChristineKloser.com.
have that in the show notes for you.
Great. So you can learn more about me there. And of course, there's a contact page with a phone number, email, form you can fill out and all that stuff to get in touch. But we'd love to hear from those of you screwballs out there who might feel like writing a book as part of that path. It would be a delight to help you.
And that book writing leads to all kinds of other things that you'll find when you check out Christine's stuff. Christine, thanks so much for visiting with us today. Everybody, make sure you visit screwthecommute.com to see the show notes for this and the links to all of Christine's stuff and anything we've mentioned today. And also, make sure you check out imtcva.org. There's a webinar there that'll teach you about higher education and let you make some serious decisions about your future